Let's take a look at the Tulsa Golden Hurricane and a look ahead into their 2021 season. It's a crystal ball right now, I guess. With Kelly Hines, the TU beat writer for the Tulsa World. This is columnist Garen Emig. Kelly, nice to see you again, first of all.
Thank you. Good to see you.
How you've had the advantage that a lot of other beat writers haven't, and the fact that you're allowed to go watch a little practice this time of year. Before we get into specific players and issues related to this year's TU squad, any general impressions of what you've seen to this point?
I think what really struck me early on in preseason practice was the depth that this team has. When you're seeing, second and even third string guys out there, and you're like, man, that's someone who could be in a starting role. I mean, it's kind of staggering, especially, offensive line in particular. Mm-hmm. And they have, offensive line has 5 starters back, and then you also have another guy, Xavier Gadlin, who opted out last year. Another guy, Bryce Bray, who started at Oklahoma State and sat out last year. And Tiller Bucktrot, who started games in his career. Anyway, that's just an example.
Sure.
I think you see a lot of that. And just talking to Philip Montgomery, about the state of the program, I think that the stability there is pretty incredible when you look at, maybe the results haven't been there in previous years, but I think the program is at a good point right now.
The results were very good last year, 6-3 record, took Cincinnati to the wire in the American Conference Championship game, lost a tight bowl game against Mississippi State. The interest, of course, among TU fans is for the program to use every bit of that momentum gained last year and have it carry over. Obviously, we're not going to know that until the games begin, and momentum's sort of a nebulous thing anyway. But just your sense of how important they think last year was in terms of pushing the program ahead. What do you think?
Oh, for sure. And I think that's why so many guys came back, of the seniors who could have moved on, most of them chose to come back because I think they got that taste of, what they hadn't been experiencing, winning. And that's a lot of fun. So I think, that there was a lot of confidence that came along with that. And you just kind of see a team carry itself differently in spring and summer and fall when you're coming off a season like that. So they went out and did it last year, to win 6 conference games in a row and have all of that momentum going into the conference title game and to make a bowl appearance. I think all of that is, just they have that confidence that you couldn't possibly have otherwise. And I don't think they're overconfident by any, but I just feel like they have a little bit of swagger to them that I haven't really seen really in 5 years. So I think that's definitely a good thing.
Last year, of course, primarily because of Zaven Collins, everything TU related, you sort of led with the defense, right? And some of the things that Collins did and Coach Gillespie's squad did to sort of help lift up an offense. It's still lagging a little bit. TU's still looking for a breakthrough season at quarterback. Seems like it's been that way, right? Since Dane Evans left. It's been 5 years now, 4 or 5 years now. Davis Brynn's the guy going into the season. The question is, can Davis Brynn deliver something again that Philip Montgomery needs one of these? It's got to happen one of these years. What's your impression on Brynn being the guy to finally deliver the goods at such an important position?
I think that he definitely has the most potential since Dane Evans. I feel like if it's going to happen, he's a really good candidate for that to happen with him. So I feel like he has there's just this calm demeanor that I think is super critical to that position. And, even though all we've really seen from him was in that Tulane game, the fourth quarter and the overtimes.
Right.
I mean, I think he is a gamer type guy. I think that he has the ability to make things happen. That's what you want in your quarterback. I think that it's hard to really gauge where he's at right now because the defense is so good. Mm-hmm. And, now that they're split up in practice, scout team and all of that. But during the preseason, you could just tell that they were ready to stop facing each other because the defense, that's a big challenge for really for the offense. The defense is just further ahead. So I do think that Davis has a ton of potential. He has everything there to be successful. He has a really good offensive line. Mm-hmm. He has really skilled receivers. The run game, which I know we'll talk about, obviously that's in very capable hands. So I feel like everything is set up for him to be successful. Whereas, maybe in previous years, the offensive line wasn't as developed, the receivers weren't as experienced, those other things obviously come into play when it comes to the quarterback position. I feel like it's going to be different. It needs to be different. It's time for that aspect of Philip Montgomery's team to come together. And I really feel like there's a chance for that this year.
Because of Brynn's inexperience as a starter, and because Tulsa starts with 2 tough road games, non-conference beyond the opener against Cal Davis, that is a home opener, but then they're off to Stillwater and Columbus. Goodness gracious. The thought might be that you lean a little bit on the run game to get Brynn settled. You've already mentioned the depth of the offensive line. If you lean the direction of the TU run game, I think a lot of folks are going to latch back onto Shamari Brooks right now that he's back after missing last season. Tell us where he is and what you anticipate if 100% is maximum Shamari Brooks, what do you think we'll see from him as the season begins?
I think that he's very close to 100% if he's not there already. I've just seen him make cuts and do things that you're like, that's sold Shamari. And, to miss out on an entire year. And, obviously that was a crazy year, but, I just feel like he's so ready to be back out there and pick up really where he left off, which was his career best game and in his last game of the 2019 season. So I feel like he has the potential to, I still think they're going to have generic Prince and other guys be part of that, but I feel like he really will have a chance to, set the program's rushing record. He's about 1,200 yards away from that. That would be a really good season. Obviously, staying healthy is a big part of that. I think that that's possible, but, it also changes things if the other part of your offense comes along, which, as we've said, hasn't been there in previous years. So how obviously Philip Montgomery wants to be balanced. We know that, but it's hard to know exactly what direction that's going to take. But I do feel like with Shimari and Zaneric and Anthony Watkins, and it's a long list of guys that they have at that position who I feel like there's not much drop off one to the next. I think that there'll be a chance for the run game to be very successful. And I think everybody's rooting for Shimari with his return from injury. Obviously that was devastating with a torn ACL the week of the first game. That's just brutal. Missed the whole year. And so I've just seen from him that, that fire, that, that hunger to get back out there. And, with him being a local guy, it just seems like it would be so perfect for him to end his career as the program's all-time leading rusher.
Outsiders who look at the Tulsa defense coming back, they're going to start with the hole left by Zaven Collins, and they're going to automatically assume that there's just no getting past that. You still got talented players, but you just don't lose a centerpiece like Collins and expect to be as strong. Fair or unfair? Do you think that's a decent way to look at it, or are we overlooking a bunch of other guys who can make this defense just as good, if not better, this year?
Really, it's crazy, the talent at the linebacker positions, considering you had a first-round draft pick not be there. So, speaking specifically about Zaven's position at weak side linebacker, they have 3 guys competing for a starting role. It's almost time for the first game, and it's still a very, heated competition between 3 guys. That's pretty crazy. So that makes you feel pretty good about the rotation there if they're still competing at this point. John Michael Terry is part of that, the transfer from Oklahoma. I think 3 guys will play at that spot. At the other spots, Justin Wright at middle linebacker, he has the type of intensity that you want from your
Psycho.
Yeah, definitely is living up to his nickname. And, Trayvon Reeves is another linebacker. I just feel like they have all of these guys who have a ton of experience.
Yeah.
And maybe they got a little bit overshadowed by Zaven, but feel like they were part of that too. Obviously it takes a lot of pressure off you when you're, playing next to a guy like Zaven. But I feel like there's some carryover, especially with Justin Wright. He got so much experience playing next to Zaven last year. And, he was a guy who wasn't even supposed to be in the starting role, but the starter got injured also the week of the opener. And so, he kind of gets forced into that and has a breakout season. Everyone's like, where did that come from? And, I just feel like they have guys like that who, maybe we don't talk about as much because of other guys on the defense. But I think there's always going to be that possibility because Gillespie coaches the linebackers, and he's a really great coach that honestly TU is lucky to still have on staff there. So I feel like they're going to be in good hands. Are they going to have a Zaven type guy? Probably not. Of those linebackers, I think it'd be difficult to replicate that sort of season like he had last year. But I feel like amongst them, they could, do a lot of good things.
All right. You got to have good people in back anymore to stop college offenses. We all know this. Teams throw it all over the yard. TU had a pretty good pair at corner last year, and Caleb Evans and Allie Green. They've moved on from the program. How big a loss are they? We're talking a lot about Collins, but what about the corners and who's in line to fill that void?
I mean, you just can't replace that sort of experience. I mean, I think it's 48 combined starts or combined games, whatever it was. I mean, those were guys who had contributed since the day they walked on campus. They played a ton as freshmen. Did really good things throughout their career. You just can't replace that. So, Tyon Davis was a guy who was completely overshadowed by those two, and now it's his turn. And, he went the junior college route and kind of, went under the radar, but they're really high on him. I think he's definitely has the potential to be a breakout player. Trayvon Fuller is another one. He's a Texas A&M transfer. Spent 4 years in an SEC program. You have to think that he's probably got some skills, and he's looked good in the preseason. Reggie Ellis is another guy who will definitely, if he's not starting, he's going to be like heavy in the rotation. And he's, he would have been a backup this year. He would have played anyway. So, those other guys leaving, that was so unexpected and full, and it was like a difficult breakup that came out of nowhere. And, you just have to pick up the pieces and move on. But I feel like, the coaches did a good job of using the portal, which is not really their first choice. But, found some guys in the portal, 3 transfer corners, and, you just don't know what direction that's going to go. You got to get to the game to see that. But I feel like, they have some good options. And I think it starts with Tyon Davis.
All right, let's talk about TU's place in the American real quick. Poll came out. No surprise to see Cincinnati such an overwhelming favorite with Desmond Ritter back and so much talent on a team that was a New Year's Six squad a year ago. What about 6th, though, for Tulsa? I mean, this is a team that took Cincy again to the wire and could have, if not should have, won that AAC championship game. That puts them technically on the lower half of the league with 11 squads. TU's used to having to overperform. I get it, but I thought they might get a little more benefit of the doubt. Does it even matter, number one? And if it does, how much of a chip does that put on guys' shoulders?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter, but you still think, that they would get a little bit more respect than that. But, when you talk about just those guys we mentioned, you lose, 3 defensive starters, and offense has been, kind of up and down the last few years. So, I think everyone talks so much about Gus Malzahn being back at UCF. And, I think Tulsa just kind of gets lost when people start talking about the American. Obviously, Cincinnati's there at the top. I know people are high on SMU, and even being that Houston may be able to get together this year after a really disastrous last couple of years. But, I think that I personally would be surprised if Tulsa doesn't finish in the top half of the conference. I think that everything is there for that. The schedule's difficult, but it's going to be difficult every year in the American, playing back-to-back Power 5 teams, on the road. Yeah, that's going to be difficult. But I feel like once they get to conference play, there will be wins there. I honestly feel like there are quite a few sneaky teams in the American. I think Tulane is going to be dangerous every year that Willie Fritz is there. That's going to be a dangerous team. Memphis, I mean, they won 8 games last year, and they're picked in the bottom half of the league. So it's a tough conference, and it's really tough to get that sort of respect. You get it one year and it's gone the next. And, I feel like maybe the way that Tulsa won games, got lucky, created its own luck, however you want to say that. I feel like maybe didn't get as much respect as it probably should have gotten.
Sure.
So, it doesn't ever surprise me. I think last year Tulsa was picked 8th or 9th out of 11 teams, and obviously to finish second, that was an incredible season. And I think that there's going to be the possibility for a lot of success in the American this year.
Yeah. I know a lot of fans are, again, already anxious to see what happens when not only these guys open the season against Cal Davis in a week, gosh, it's a week all of a sudden. And then, isn't that great? And then when they go to Stillwater and Columbus, right, to see, if nothing else, how competitive they can be, especially at the Horseshoe. But I got to tell you, I'm already sort of zeroing in on the game against Houston, right? I think that's like October 1st. I mean, that's right out of the gate in October.
It's a Friday game.
That could be an early swing game, right? I mean, in terms of establishing yourself, Houston's one of those teams picked ahead of Tulsa in the standings. I think the assumption is the Bearcats have a deeper, a few more stars on their roster, and yet TU produced where Houston hasn't lately. Certainly was the case last year. So maybe that's a game where you circle as in terms of what kind of season is this squad going to have.
Yeah, I think there are going to be a few games like that. That's a Friday night game. There are weird things in Friday night games. I personally, someone asked me the other day what game I was, kind of intrigued by, and it's that Tulane game. It's at Tulane, and but I feel like, gosh, there are so many games like that. I mean, really every game once you get to conference play, obviously it's weird for Tulsa to have to play at Cincinnati for a third year in a row. But, I think that even could be, you don't have any idea the direction things are going to go. And that one is a ways away. Tulsa doesn't play UCF, which that series has been dominated by Tulsa lately, but I think the last game of the regular season is at SMU, and that's another team picked above them. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to getting to league play, because that's when you really start to get a feel for a team. It's so hard to kind of see that when you play an FCS team and 2 Power 5 teams, especially one that's ranked in the top 5. It's hard to get a feel for a team from those type of games. Once you get into October or November, you really start to see. And, last year was so crazy because there'd be like 2-3 weeks between games, and you start to think that a team has some momentum, and then there'd be a break. And, let's hope that there's not anything quite like that. But I feel like this year, to be able to get some momentum in league play, especially early on, obviously that would be a good thing.
She'll be covering the team every step of the way, no matter how it goes. Kelly Hines, the authority when it comes to TU athletics, and certainly University of Tulsa football. Kelly, thank you so much for your insight. Have a fun and healthy, and we should probably still say that, right, with everything going on. Healthy season. I'll see you in the press box a few times. Looking forward to that. And folks can catch Kelly's stories, blogs, notes, features, gamers, videos in this case. TulsaWorld.com, TU Sports Extra. Are we still calling it TU? You just go to TulsaWorldSports.com. There's a TU icon there somewhere. Find TU, you'll find Kelly, and you'll want to read Kelly because she is all over the hurricane. Good to see you, Kelly. Thanks for your help with this.
Oh, no problem. We'll see you.